Welcome, Science 10. Okay, so if you have your notes, you should be on page 5 of your note sheet. And before we start, let's look at your periodic table. So there is a link to your Science 10 data booklet just above these notes on Schoolology. So if you haven't already, make sure you've printed that out. It's nice to have a paper copy of it. And right now, for this unit, we're going to be sticking mostly with the periodic table. And I wanted to point out one thing before we start. If you actually look in your periodic table, there's a little key that's here. Let me focus in. Give me a second. Okay, and in this key, so if you're ever, for example, we're going to be working with this periodic table in more detail than just what we're doing in a moment here, but if you ever get stuck on and you're looking at the information, like what do these numbers here mean? You can come up to the key, and the key explains what the 26 and what the 55.85 mean. So all this information is there. So in Science 10, we'll be using all of the numbers that you see in here with the exception of the electronegativity. We'll get to that in Chemistry 20. And the boiling point and melting point, we'll use those in Chem 30. Other than that, the atomic number, the symbol, the name, the atomic molar mass, and the ion charges are important. We're going to be figuring out how to use these ion or calculate what these ion charges are. But if you notice that they're there, it's a nice quick cheat, and it ends up being really easy to end up using. Okay, so let's look at that question. Okay, so practicing using this periodic table. Let's fill in these blanks. So you're going to notice at first that it's going to take a long time to find, for some of you, those elements on the periodic table. So that's okay. You'll find the more that you work with the periodic table, the quicker it is to find your elements. And you'll also notice we tend to use a lot of the same elements over and over again. So group 1, group 2, and the ones over here we use quite a bit, and then some of the metals in the center. So you'll notice we end up using a lot of the same ones over and over again. So Li is actually in this first column, group 1, and it's lithium. So that's my Li. So I'm going to put lithium in there. Now, we do want to make sure when you're writing the name, we're going to be talking later in our next lesson about IUPAC. International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. And they're basically a group of scientists who've come up with these rules for chemistry. And one of them is that when you write a name, they should always be in lowercase. So get used to that now. Write your letters in all lowercase. Okay, next, what information do I find in the top left of the square? And that's the atomic number. So that's going to be 3. And as your notes has stated, for an atom, that's going to be equal to your amount of protons and electrons. So if I asked you, how many protons does lithium have? 3. How many electrons does it have? 3. You can see the atomic molar mass is here. If you've forgotten, again, don't forget about that key. You always have access to that. Okay, and the last thing is its charge. One of the last things we're going to be talking about in today's topic is the ion charge. And so if you actually look in the square, it's 1 plus. We're going to be drawing pictures later to figure out that charge. But again, when you draw a picture, it's a great way to check to see if you've done it right. If you know that you can see the ion charge in here, then you'll be able to tell whether you've gained or lost electrons. So I'm going to put 1 in there. Okay, next, 17. Okay, so this would be the atomic number. So I'm going to look through my periodic table for number 17, which ends up being right here. And I can see that it is chlorine with the atomic symbol, capital C, small l, and there's its molar mass. So let's fill in that information there. So for 17, you'll notice that chlorine has a 1 negative charge. So I put the 1 there already. Let's add the negative. But directly below that ends up being your molar mass, 35.45. It's one of the last things we're going to be talking about in our chemistry unit. We'll be using this number in some calculations. Okay, so there's my 35.45. My symbol is Cl, which I took from my periodic table, and chlorine. Again, make sure that you're using all lowercase. Okay, last one. This one's a bit trickier because now I've got my molar mass and 2 plus. And so I've got to look through my periodic table. So you'll start here and you'll see 1, and then you'll see 6 and 9. And one of the trends that you should have talked about in junior high is as the number gets higher, the molar mass actually gets higher as well. So I'm looking for 40.08. Here it is. And there's calcium. So atomic number 20. going to be capital C, small a, and calcium, again, all lowercase letters. Okay, so not bad. Okay, so let's read your next slide, and then if you get stuck, I'll be solving the next questions in your next slides as well.